Hello, everybody. I'm here today with a teacher from one of our public schools called Anthony, and he wrote to me out of the blue about it's called a respectful relationship program. That's actually running it in his schools. This is one of the many male-bashing anti-violence programs that are being shown all over Australia to teachers and also to pupils. Anyway, I managed to persuade Anthony to come along today and talk to me about this. Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Tina. How are you?
I'm very happy that you're joining me. Now, this program that you talked to me about was actually being shown to the teachers in the school, but I gather similar sort of stuff is being shown to kids as well. Is that right?
Yes, the content's the same for teachers and students, and some of it is great, but some of it is certainly targeted at males. And that's where my concern is, because I think the image is not a good one for students to be presented as being the norm. Yeah,
well, we're going to show a little bit now of this is a video made by Our Watch, which was being shown to your staff in your school, and I just put together some clips that really annoyed me. But it's a systematic presentation of violent men mistreating women, boys mistreating women, and the argument is that gender inequality is responsible for domestic violence in this country. So we'll just show a bit of that.
This is the story of how gender inequality contributes to the murder of one Australian woman almost every week. Even though both his parents work, on the weekends his mum does the housework while dad watches sport. When he cries about being bullied at school, his dad tells him to stop being such a girl and just punch him right back. In such a world, disrespect and hostility is excused and violence against women is far more likely. She is dependent on him for everything. So she never tells anyone that he has started to hit her. She doesn't say anything to her family or friends. She grows more isolated. She has nothing else but him, so she lives with the violence until their story ends, one way or another. It's a story shared by 1 in 4 Australian women who have experienced physical or sexual violence from a current or former partner.
Now, Anthony, tell me how you reacted when you first saw that.
So my initial instinct, like I'm a mathematician, so I look at it in terms of statistics that you're given, and it just didn't ring true. I was particularly concerned by that 1 in 4 at the end, where they speak about it being about all, 1 in 4, but I don't think 1 in 4 experience it that way. They've cherry-picked the worst of men. And that really concerns me, because they're presenting that to kids, that this is what men are like. 1 in 4 women are experiencing this.
No mention of the statistics of how many women are abusing men, of course. I mean, I only showed in that little video clip just now one of the statistics they put up. They systematically go through all the lies that are being promoted about domestic violence. No mention of women's violence towards children, no mention of women's violence towards men. All these they use statistics about people's experience over a lifetime, which means they're including what happened to 70-year-old women 50 years ago in the stats where they claim this is today's situation. There's innumerable ways those statistics are being distorted. And of course, unless you know what the data actually shows, you wouldn't have a clue what's wrong with those stats. One of the reasons you knew this didn't gel with your own experience was that you actually had a violent mother, didn't you?
Well, I did, and when you've got a gentle father who was firm but fair for the time, and you've got a mother who's not, because she struggled to cope with boys, it just didn't ring true for me. I can't be Robinson Crusoe. I can't be the only person who's going through this. And while I forgave my mother years ago, if you asked her, even now, if you asked her who was at fault, she would say that I am.
Anthony, one of the things, I sent you my big domestic violence article, which I pulled together all the statistics, and that's what interests me. Your reaction was to be totally astonished by that, because you weren't aware of the real statistics.
And it's not like I don't read. I do read, but we're fed one lot of statistics, and they're they're to support a particular narrative. I'm concerned about any statistics that are used to support a narrative. They should be there to support the truth. And I actually believe that the statistics we're given are true, but they're only part of the story, and you can't tell half the story and claim to be honest. I mean, that's lies by omission. So essentially, this program is lies by omission.
Absolutely. And when that was shown to your staff in your school, there were actually some women who got up and said that doesn't make sense. That's not then that image of males is not the men I know in my life. Tell me about that.
And isn't that lovely that some women recognise that their husband, their son, their father, their friend, their brother are good people, and that this is just an excuse for man bashing?
When those staff did speak out, how did people react to that?
Well, I wasn't at that session where they stood up, but someone told me about it, and I then spoke to them and thanked them for standing up, because there isn't a man in that place who's going to stand up and say what was said. It's just it's dangerous to do it in this environment where the official word from the department, which is coming down, and the resources supplied to us are telling us one thing and another, risk involved in speaking out with something along those lines.
But what also really excited me was that we've been talking about the idea of getting some sort of grassroots movement going in schools, because I'm hearing from a lot of parents and from some teachers about the fact that they really object to this male bashing presentation around domestic violence that's being shown across Australia. White Ribbon is one of the main organisations that's doing this, but in your case it was an Our Watch video that was used as part of your Respectful Relationships program. And I think it'd be really interesting. I'm hoping, Anthony, you're going to be available to help pull some of this together, just to see. Let's just see who's out there and wanting to tackle this issue in schools, and maybe we can get a bit of momentum going. Have you been thinking about that?
Yeah, look, I find it interesting, and I'd like to know what strategies we can take to see how many people don't feel like they've have a voice because they're being silenced by a fairly well produced package. Even though it's got faults in it, it's difficult to compete if you don't have the language. So I'm interested in the language that we would use to compete with it. When
parents contact me and say, what do we do? I always say, talk to other parents. You don't want to be one, mum and dad turning up to school complaining about something that might get their kids into trouble. Anyway, we have to think about strategies here. So if people would like to write, you can write care of me and care of my website. If you want to get involved in some sort of grassroots-based program in schools, and maybe Anthony can help with all of this, let me know. But a few more things I wanted to talk to you about, Anthony, was I was interested that you said to me that you feel there are real issues with how boys are being treated in schools. And there, of course, there's some really solid research showing that boys tend to be treated differently when it comes to even marking exam papers, let alone being disciplined for the way they behave in schools. And you've found that you gave me some nice examples of female teachers obviously favouring girls and treating girls differently. You told me about an example of a female teacher objecting to boys calling her Miss. And and that was in our school. Sorry. That's right. It's an interesting example.
That conversation revolving around what we call men. We call kids abbreviate Mr. to Sir, so that if they don't know your name's Mr. Smith, they'll say Sir. There are 4 teachers sitting around complaining that a kid had put his hand up and called her Miss. She objected to be calling Miss. She objected to Mom. She objected to almost every pronoun I could think of that was reasonable. And I thought to myself, where's your accountability in this? Where do you say that my name is, I would like you to call me X, Y, Z. I do that when I walk into any classroom. I write my name on the board, and I let them know what they can call me, so that all they've got to do is look at the board and they know. I thought it was pretty petty and one of them said, well, I schooled him, I educated him on how sexist that is. And I thought to myself, you didn't really educate him. What you did is you showed everybody that you were willing to put somebody down. And that's something you do in private. You go over to them quietly and say, I'd prefer it if you call me whatever it is that you want to be called, or announce to the whole class. That's what I'd do. I'd think, I've neglected to tell them, how they can address me. And I'd just, say it out loud. I just think it's an opportunity to get another one over boys. And, I don't think it's fair.
And shaming boys. I was interested, you were telling me about the fact that you have more problem in calling out girls over their behaviour than you do with boys. And boys, don't like it, but, they will acknowledge when they're, you point out they've been misbehaving, and girls struggle more with that. Tell me about that. I was interested in the difference in their reactions.
There are two things. I've never had a boy lie in a parent-teacher interview. They always fess up in front of their parents. They don't see me as the enemy. They go, yeah, look, I haven't really been doing my work. The only ones, and I have to say 99% of girls are honest too, but the only ones I've had trouble with are girls who are used to leveraging often tears, but certainly emotion, in order to avoid any kind of accountability. And then it's thrown back to me, it appears that you've got an issue with girls. And I think to myself, no, I actually get along with the majority of girls. The ones that struggle are the ones that don't want to be held accountable. Are you going to hold them accountable? And sometimes the answer to that's actually no. They won't be held accountable because they're too emotional at the moment. And then by the time they're not emotional anymore, it's 2 weeks' time. And look, we might just let it go. I don't think that's an acceptable way to deal with discipline. A boy would certainly not be able to say to a female staff member, if you make me do that, I'm going to hit you. A boy would just be suspended. But I had a girl last year say that if you make me work with numbers again, I'm going to hit you. I think, well, that's not okay, and you need to be told about that. We never addressed it. And that's what I'm saying is I don't know whether it's because I was male and she was female, if it would have been different if it was female and female, or, what the issue was. But it was addressed at the time. I think you've got a problem with girls. I don't have a problem with girls.
Well, that's the tricky territory for men, isn't it? That the minute you
it is.
behave, perhaps if you treat girls the same way you treat boys, inevitably you're going to be judged as treating girls too harshly. You think that's right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I loved your story. You told me a story about an assistant principal, a retired guy, who was foolish enough to do some numbers on school detentions and found that 78% of the students students who were getting those detentions were male, and presented that to the staff and just got howled down for suggesting there was a difference in the way. He wondered whether it was the relationship between the gender of the student and the gender of the staff member, and he got into deep doo-doo for that. Is that right?
The problem wasn't looking at the data, because everybody wants to do something about boys' behaviour. The problem was the question that he asked. So he wondered if there was a relationship between the gender that was being given the detentions and the gender of the teacher. And that's what people were opposed to. So he didn't look at it because he was worried that he might find something that he didn't want to address because it would be too politically difficult to do. So that's the issue. The issue isn't that the problem is there. The issue is you better be careful about how you shape the conversation. It had better not include any implications that there might be some gender bias. Gender bias the wrong way.
Yeah, that's right. Anthony, what's interesting for me in all of it, what you've been saying, is this impression about what it's like to be a male teacher, and that's an increasingly rare position to be in our schools, to be a male teacher tiptoeing around these issues and always feeling that it's very easy for you to get it wrong.
I have a tendency not to tiptoe. I don't deliberately annoy people, but when there's a conflict of what I believe and what I believe to be right, and people doing the wrong thing, I'm the type of person who will stand up and say, I don't think this is okay.
Anthony, I mean, I just think it's been fascinating talking to you. And I think a lot of people will feel you're very brave in being as outspoken as you have been and will be, because now I want you to read out what you propose to say at the next Respectful Relationships event in your school. But it's been a great pleasure having you here today, and I hope we can do some more work together on the whole school issue and what's happening to boys in schools. Thanks very much, Anthony.
Thank you, Tana. Last year, the Respectful Relationships program implored all teachers to call out discriminatory behaviour, and some have felt brave enough to speak out publicly. I thank them for setting this example. But there have been many hushed conversations behind closed doors addressing the dangers of calling out anything in an environment sensitive to identity politics. I have decided to take that risk. A number of people have told me how they feel their narrative contradicts this respectful relationship discussion. It is my feeling the word respectful is at fault. I've never liked the word respect because it gets bandied about like we are all entitled to it. Nobody is entitled to respect. You earn it. I am obviously white, I am male, and I grew up in a Christian middle-class household. I appear to be the poster boy for white male privilege. There are staff here who would willingly place me in this category. However, my life hasn't been a poster for privilege because of my colour, my gender, or social status. And I am not Robinson Crusoe. For everything I articulate as a personal experience, there is another privileged white male in this school with a similar experience. I was a victim of domestic violence as a child. In a time where hitting children with a strap or wooden spoon was considered acceptable, I was savagely beaten and kicked in my home where I should have felt safe, at times wondering if I would survive. If you are picturing my father as the predator, you have fallen for the selective statistics of the media. It was my mother. I never defended myself by striking back, even though I could easily have done so. Men don't hit women. I blamed myself, and so did my mother. I forgave her years ago, but where was my white male privilege then? At secondary school, I often sat on the lawn listening to the girls talk. Though I never had a girlfriend, my best friend was always a female. When I heard the way girls were talked about in the boys' locker room and called it out, I was alienated by a small group of insecure male peers, bullied, and branded a girl or a puff. I didn't feel privileged to be male. As a male student, being part of the cadet corps was compulsory from year 7. I stood beside the girls who fought to have the right to participate in cadets. Theirs was a choice, mine was not. In year 9, I had to learn to use an M16 rifle, a gun designed to shoot other human beings. My refusal to fire the gun became a running theme of shame for some of my teachers for the rest of my schooling. Though cadets taught me discipline, resilience and survival skills, I was seen as just a coward. Where was my privilege then? When there was a dispute with males at school or with my older brother, they were settled with fists, even though I would have preferred to settle them with words and mediation. I didn't get that choice. When I appealed for help from teachers or my parents, I was simply told to hit him back. That didn't feel like privilege when I watched my sisters receive compassion and adult intervention. I ended up running away from home before I finished my schooling. The benches of Spencer Street Station became my bed in the middle of winter. Where was my privilege then? When a youth worker rescued me from those benches and tried to get me a job based on my skills, the employment gatekeepers would not let me apply for any office jobs, even though my touch typing speed was tested at double that required, and accuracy was well above the minimum. Men don't type. I was allowed to labour on a farm, or on a work site, or as a storeman in a factory. In a fast food chain, males were out back, cooking, getting their arms burned by spitting oil and treated like scum. Girls were front of house, nurtured into their roles. Where was my privilege then? When I started a family, my partner, a school teacher, proposed that she would be a stay-at-home mum. I supported her through this choice for 12 years, despite the fact I would have loved to have had a greater part in bringing up my 3 boys. When she suggested she'd like to return to work, I supported that choice and proposed that I could cut back to 0.6 to share the raising of our children, and we benefit from lower taxes. I was told that I was living in La La Land if I thought I was doing anything but full-time. Men work full-time, women choose. Where was my privilege then? Today when I walk along the streets behind a woman, I feel the need to cross the road because I don't want her to feel unsafe. But in reality, statistics say I am more likely to be assaulted than she is. I have been assaulted requiring hospitalisation. Where was my privilege then? When we genderise all our resources and discussion to point at the bad men in this world, we are simply speaking to our own ignorance. Bad men exist. Bad women exist. Most of us are good people. This program is being presented to good men and women. I know because I work with them. We are one humanity, and assigning traits to one gender or the other is counterproductive. We should stand and tell positive stories of the proof of this statement. Women are strong. Women are courageous. Men are compassionate and caring. Men listen. Rather than telling me how I should act or feel, tell me about the great things that you see people do, and perhaps that will inspire me to be better too. Positive modelling trumps virtue signalling. Clearly I have been offended, or I would not be saying what I am, and anyone is entitled to offend me. Nobody has the right not to be offended. Being offended is how we have real discussions about important ways we can grow. But don't offend me and then try to shame me into silence, because you don't wish to be confronted with an alternative view. It has to cut both ways. I'm going to leave now and reflect on my stupidity. Thank you.